एवरीवन, आज हम करने वाले हैं 19th क्वेश्चन डेरियो कंपनी। देखते हैं क्या पूछा। यूजिंग एग्जिबिट 1 डिस्कस द एथिकल इश्यूज कॉज्ड बाय द करंट बिजनेस सिचुएशन। डेरियो कंपनी Dario Company is a pharmaceutical company. The financial year end of Dario Company is 31st of December 2017. The following exhibits available below providing information relevant to the question. Ethical considerations describes the ethical issues surrounding Dario Company. मतलब इस पैराग्राफ के ऊपर आपने को पूरा का पूरा ethical consideration बताना है। और नेक्स्ट जो 8 मार्क के लिए है, वो इसके लिए ये वाला पैराग्राफ है, तो ठीक है। Ethical considerations. The finance director of Dario Company is not a permanent employee but is paid on a consultancy basis. He is currently on a 6-month contract. The chief executing officer is a personal friend of the finance director, and she recommended him to the board of Dario Company. And FD and CEO are both ACCA members. So first of all, there is a familiarity thread that comes into picture because chief executive officer is a personal friend of the FD, and she has recommended to the board of Dario Company. That means there can be certain scenarios where the chief executing officer can direct the finance director to work in a certain way that would influence the financial statements or would influence the reporting for the financial year. ये हो सकता है. Dario company currently has cash flow problems, and CEO has asked the FD if she is prepared to reduce the current fee by 50%. Dario company currently has a cash flow problem. The CEO has asked the FD if he is prepared to reduce his current fee by 50%. FD's contract is due for renewal in the next month. The CEO has recently spoken to the FD and stated that his contract is more likely to be renewed if he is prepared to take a fee reduction. She has also said that if he needs support, then as a friend, she will help him. Here we can see that because CU and FD were friends with each other, there was a clear reduction in the current fee by 50% asked from the finance director. If if the finance director was an external personality which was not in connection with the chief executive officer, then the fee reduction of 50% would not have been considered. Uh, would not have been considered, and this cash flow problem would have been dealt in a very different way. If this contract is due for renewal in the next month, the as FD's contract is due for renewal in the next month, if he considers that if he says that he is not prepared to reduce his current fee by 50%, then there can be serious implications that could be seen in his contract renewal. That is, his contract may not get renewed on the basis that he was rigid, that he was not considering the reduction in his fee. Next, new issues spoken to the there should be clear understanding upon the statement that she has also said that if he needs support, then as a friend she will help him. This support should have a clear understanding or a clear picture that whether it is financial support which the chief executive officer is trying to provide the finance director outside the company boundaries. Hmm, उसके बाद FD is upset by the fee request as no other director has taken a cut in their salary. So exactly. So ये sentence पहले वैसा copy paste करेंगे कि because FD is upset because all the fee reduction has मतलब all the cash flow problem is dealt with his own uh, fee or their own salary rather than reducing the salary of the other directors. This clearly implies that this reduction has taken place because of the personal relationship that can be seen between FD and the chief executive officer. Uh, as the CEO would have felt that it won't be right to ask the other directors to reduce their salary, but wouldn't have hesitated to ask the finance director. ऐसा he is currently undertaking a going concern review of Dario company, but has decided not to complete his report until he has considered his position with Dario company. Because FD is a ACCA member, he should follow the five ethical principles that describe or that are being included in the ACCA Code of Ethics, which includes integrity, objectivity, pers- professional competence and due care, confidentiality, and professional behavior. In the current scenario, we can see that as he is not undertaking a going concern review, as he is not undertaking a going concern review, just because his position has not been confirmed with Dario company, he's not fulfilling the objective characteristic. That is, he's not providing fair information or not acting in the true interest of Dario company. Okay? FD's findings will also form a part of a submission to the government for funding and will be shared with the external auditors. He knows that the current cash flow problem would indicate that the company is not a going concern, that if he submitted his report, there would be no government funding. There is also a possibility that financial statements would receive a qualified audit report. He is considering overstating the future potential returns on investments. Wait. Also form a part of submission to the government for funding and will be shared with the external auditors. He knows that the current cash flow arrangement would indicate that the company is not a going concern. If he submitted his report, there would be no government funding. There is also a possibility that the financial statements possibility that would receive a qualified report. He is considering, अच्छा मतलब ये he is not a going concern. ये जब वो रिपोर्ट करेगा तो उस चीज के ऊपर क्वालिफाइड रिपोर्ट आएगी. He is considering overstating future potential returns. तो वो कंसिडर कर रहा है कि वो ओवरस्टेट कर दे फ्यूचर पोटेंशियल रिटर्न्स को ताकि हमारी कंपनी एक गोइंग कंसर्न दिखना चालू कर दे. Again, he should act मतलब he's an ACCA member and should present due care, integrity. इंटेग्रिटी का ऑब्जेक्टिव ये यहाँ पे फुलफिल नहीं कर रहा है. Because see, his contract is due for renewal, right? So if he's मतलब थोड़ा सा भी if he doesn't give a positive review or if he doesn't act in the best interest of the company, then there would be severe implications on his contract renewal, and thus this is influencing him as he is considering boosting the future potential returns on investment. In addition, many एक मिनट बिकॉज सी अगर गवर्नमेंट फंडिंग नहीं मिली तो कंपनी के कैश फ्लो प्रॉब्लम सही नहीं चलेंगे, और अगर कंपनी के कैश फ्लो प्रॉब्लम सॉर्ट नहीं होंगे तो कंपनी गोइंग कंसर्न नहीं है तो फिर कंपनी बंद हो जाएगी. तो सम और द अदर वे ही इज आल्सो सेफ गार्डिंग हिज ओन एम्प्लॉयमेंट हियर. In addition, many of the accounting staff are remote employees. Many of the accounting staff are remote employees, meaning that they are now working at home rather than working in the office. FD is worried about the possibility of data theft. Unfortunately, he does not have the skills, nor does Dario Company have the capacity to undertake a widespread investigation into the issue. Given the current request to reduce his fee and the cash flow situation, he also does not have the incentive to deal with the potential. Even he does not have the incentive to deal with the potential data theft or inform the board to enable them to address any potential problem. However, he has asked the information technology department to add productivity monitoring software to all remote employees' computers without their permission or knowledge, and any employee who spends time on non-business websites will be immediately disciplined. If the remote employees find out that a productivity monitoring software has been applied to their computers without their permission or knowledge, then it might reduce their motivation or productivity, as they would feel that the management or the company is not trusting them enough that they would work in the best interest of the company. Given the current request to reduce his fee and cash flow situation, he does not have the incentive to deal with the potential data to inform the board. So he's not informing the board. He's not. So yeah, integrity. मतलब he's not fulfilling the objective of integrity. He's not fulfilling the principle. Sorry, principle of integrity. That is, he's not being fully trustworthy with the board of directors just because his contract is not for renewal, and ये सब चीजों की वजह से however however he should fulfill the objective of professional competence and due care, because in this situation we can see that he's not even informing the board and all that stuff. इसके आगे unfortunately he does not have the skills. He does not have the skills. Maybe the finance director wants to hide the fact that he does not have the skills to undertake a widespread investigation into this issue, because of which he is not informing the board, because otherwise it would affect his professional competence and due care principle, ये बोल सकते हैं. uh, all these accounting problems or all these ethical issues should be discussed with the chief executive officers and the other directors in the board of Dario company. um, अच्छा, यहाँ पे मैंने उसका कंक्लूजन नहीं दिया ना. So basically, because he's doing it on purpose and affecting its integrity, we can say कि the finance director should not do this and should not keep the facts hidden from the board, and should address the potential problem of data theft and the cash flow problems to the entity. ठीक है, यहाँ पर भी he should not overstate the potential future returns on investment. Otherwise, it would not be in the best ethics of ACC code of ethics, or it would not be in the principles of ACC code of ethics. ये बोल देंगे. और यहाँ पे वो रेजिग्नेशन वगैरह का पॉइंट डालने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है, बिकॉज मैनेजमेंट इज नॉट, or the finance director is not getting directly attacked by anything, so that's okay. Let's check. Ethics. One area of concern for finance director is that of maintaining independence in his decision making. His relationship with chief executive officer can create familiarity and self interest है. Oh, self interest threat भी आता है, ये नहीं हुआ था, familiarity threat अपन ने बोला था. These threats have manifested themselves by the CEO's request and pressure to reduce his fee. The CEO has stated that the finance director's contract is more likely to be renewed if he is prepared to take a fee reduction. This is effectively an intimidation threat which can affect the competence and due care obligations. This pressure has resulted in FD not submitting his going concern review to the board. This could result in lack of professional skepticism by the FD and a delayed review of the situation by the board. The consequence is that the subsequent disclosure of the going concern issue may be too late to save the company. This is not because FD is unaware of the need for disclosure, but because his non-disclosure is due to pressure which he is under. His formal friendship with the CEO has resulted in the offer of support, and this may be compromised with his objective. The going concern review is likely to have created some stress in his business relationship with the CEO. ठीक है, यहाँ तक तो कुछ ठीक है. The pressure on cash flow cannot be allowed to cloud FD's judgment when preparing the and presenting the information accurately, without misleading in any way. This challenge has arisen because of the need to present submission to the government funding. The advocacy threat. Okay. The advocacy threat can create a potential for biased information as the FD is considering overstating future potential return on investments. Information must represent the true nature of business activity and the fundamental principle of integrity of the professional accountant is critical. यहाँ तक ठीक है. There's the advocacy thread अपन ने नहीं बोला. Advocacy. The risk of data theft through the remote working of employees should have been anticipated. The risk of data theft we anticipated. IT and data risk assessment should be periodically carried out. However, there is a capacity issue within DARIO company in dealing with data theft. In the FD's case, there is competence and due care issues which have potentially led to a lapse in the assessment of the internal controls and government structures. Also, personal integrity is extremely important when dealing with such challenges. It is also vital for him to recognize the importance of sharing his concerns with the board to enable the decisions to makers addresses the problem. Here, so he should consider sharing the concerns with the board as well and address this problem. FD wishes to implement productivity monitoring software to determine how much the employees are working. This is not of itself an unethical practice, but he wishes to implement this change without the knowledge or agreement of the employees. When employees are confronted, it will send a message to the employees that he does not that the finance director does not trust them. Rather than the entity, it is okay if you write finance director trust them and shows lack of integrity on his part. He should remind the employees that they should use company issued equipment for business purposes only and not spend time on the business on non-business websites. This is simply good business practice and is not unethical on the part of the FD. However, to threaten the employees with immediate disciplinary action does not seem to be considered approach and further emphasis the FD's need for training and professional development. ठीक है, not bad. Almost सब सही था. बस हमने वो एडवोकेसी थ्रेट के बारे में उतनी बात नहीं की थी. एंड एक मिनट, एडवोकेसी थ्रेट इन ऑडिटिंग पढ़ लेते एक बार. When auditors promote a client's perspective or stance on their behalf, they pose an advocacy threat to their independence. In most cases, if the impact is minor, it can be overlooked. Advocacy threat occurs if the auditor's judgment or objectivity is harmed due to such advocacy. Okay, ये होता है मीनिंग. ऑडिट में इसका ज्यादा अच्छे मीनिंग था एक्चुअली. इट्स जस्ट कि हम क्लाइंट के ओपिनियन को मैं तो देते हैं रादर देन व्हाट इज द फैक्ट. आगे बढ़ते हैं. Explain in accordance with the principles of IFRS 8 operating segments whether divisions A, B, C, D should be treated as separate reportable segments. Your explanation should cover the definition of an operating segment, aggregation of the operating segments, and indication of reportable segments. ऑपरेटिंग सेगमेंट्स. अच्छा, सबसे पहले तो डेफिनेशन बता देते हैं हर एक चीज का. तो एक मीनिंग और पूरा आंसर का एक ब्रीफ दे देते हैं कि एन ऑपरेटिंग सेगमेंट according to IFRS 8 operating segments, an operating segment is a component of an entity that during its business activities may earn revenue and incur expenses whose activities are regularly assessed whose performance is regularly assessed and reviewed by a chief operating decision maker so that funds can be allocated to the operating segment. Next to the segment is better. And next, for which discrete financial information is available. Abhi aggregation of operating segments. In certain scenarios, aggregations of one or more operating segments can be considered, but only when but only when both the segments have similar production or services, sell similar product or service basically, has a similar production process, uh, have specific or similar class of customers, and have similar, I want to say delivery channels actually. I want to say delivery channels actually, yeah. But I think there was some other word for it. Did distribution channels. Yeah, right. Distribution channels. Uh, Identification of reportable segments. In order to identify the reportable segments, 10% test is carried out. In this 10% test, or this 10% test is a qualitative method. In this 10% test, what happens is, first of all, uh, the the operating segment's revenue should be 10%. Operating segment's revenue, which is internal and external, should be 10% of the combined revenue from all the segments of the entity, which includes internal and external. The operating segment's assets should be 10% or more of the entire entities, or of all the segments uh, assets combined. And when it comes to profit and loss, हाँ अभी profit and loss में क्या था? The operating segment's profit or loss should be 10% or more of the absolute measure of either, of higher of um, the profits earned through the operating segments that did not incur a loss, and the loss of all the operating segments that did incur a loss. ऐसा एक मिनट कुछ तो है ना, there was a better wording is better there उनके टेक्स्ट बुक में. I just check and प्रॉफिट के लिए क्या था? The reported profit or loss is 10% or more of the greater in absolute amount combined reported profit of all operating segments that did not report a loss, combined operating loss. So combined word था जो ठीक है, fine, same था. um, Now let's read the paragraph. Dario company. Dario company has four divisions: A, B, C, D. Division A and D produce and sell to third parties. Division A produces, generating 60% of Dario company's total revenue. Division B produces allergy testing kits and sells them to pharmacy wholesalers, generating 20% of Dario company's total revenue. So thus, वो 10% के क्राइटेरिया में दोनों ए और बी आ गए, एंड दे आर फुलफिलिंग. A and B both are earning revenues also, which is good. Next, Division B's long-term average gross profit margin is significantly higher than Division A's. Division C and D undertake research and development. Division C does not provide any research and development services to third parties and only conducts activities for divisions A and B. Division C does not generate a revenue from any internal or external. तो Division C तो operating segment है ही नहीं, which is good. It is purely a cost center operating from Division D's premises. ठीक है. Division D performs contract investigation activities for other laboratories. And D performs contract investigation activities for other laboratories and pharmaceutical companies. The external revenue from this division represents 20% of DARIO company's total revenue. So this is also like, earning revenue, uh, which is 10% more. Operating results from division A, B, and D are regularly reviewed by CEO. These results include separate divisional operating profit or loss statements from which the operational decisions are made. Uh, a CEO can be considered to be a chief operating decision maker, and thus, it fulfills the second criteria as well. The costing and budgets of Division C are also reviewed by CEO. However, it is not relevant because Division C is not a revenue making, मतलब वो revenue नहीं generate कर रही है तो फिर वो company का मतलब नहीं है. There are four divisional heads who are directly accountable to the CEO, and these heads regularly discuss the operating activities, including the research and development activities, financial results, and forecasts and plans for their division. So division A, B, and D are report अच्छा एक मिनट आर ऑपरेटिंग सेगमेंट्स ये तो पक्का है. रेवेन्यू जनरेशन में 60-20-20 है तो विच इज गुड. अगेन वो लोग रेवेन्यू तो जनरेट कर रहे हैं. प्रॉफिट के बारे में इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं दी गई है ना. हाँ एक मिनट दीज रिजल्ट्स सेपरेट प्रॉफिट फ्रॉम विच. ठीक है. डिवीजन बी के लॉन्ग टर्म पर प्रॉफिट ज्यादा है ए से इतना बोला हुआ है सिर्फ. डिवीजन डी के प्रॉफिट के बारे में कुछ बात नहीं की गई है. और एसेट्स क्वांटिटेटिव थ्रेशोल्ड्स इनमें से ओनली वन. हाँ तो इन तीनों में से जो मैंने बोले थे क्वांटिटेटिव थ्रेशोल्ड वो 10% टेस्ट में उनमें से कोई भी एक फुलफिल होना चाहिए. तो उनमें से एक तो फुलफिल हो रहा है विच इज रेवेन्यू जनरेशन. तो 60-20-20 तो हो रहा है. तो हर एक को रिपोर्टेबल सेगमेंट भी कहा जा सकता है. ठीक है. चेक कर लेते हैं. IFRS 8 operating segment states that an operating segment is a component of an entity which engages in business activities from which it might earn revenues or incur expenses, including revenues and expenses related to a transaction with other components of the same entity, whose operating results are regularly reviewed by the entity's chief operating decision maker (CODM) to make decisions about the resources to be allocated to the segment and assess its performance, for which discrete financial information is available. बराबर तो ये तीनों अपन ने बराबर बोले थे. हाउस ऑपरेटिंग रिजल्ट्स एक्चुअली द वर्ड इज ऑपरेटिंग रिजल्ट. मैं शायद फाइनेंशियल परफॉर्मेंस बोला था. ठीक है. Division C is not a operating segment. This is because Division C does not generate revenue from any internal or external source. This is purely a cost center. तो ये तो नहीं है बराबर. Division A, B, D all generate revenues. Divisions that have heads who are directly accountable to CEO, and these heads regularly discuss operating activities, including research and development activities, financial results, forecast, and plan for the division. It therefore seems reasonable to conclude that division A, B, and D are separate operating segments. फिर उन्होंने एग्रीगेशन के बारे में बात की कि टू और मोर ऑपरेटिंग सेगमेंट्स में भी एग्रीगेटेड. तो ये रहा उनका criteria. The nature of the product and service should be the same. Similar में कहाँ गया similar word है. Nature and the product of service, nature of the production process, type, classes of customer मतलब type of customer for the product and services, distribution methods for the products, एंड एक लास्ट में इन्होंने अपनी तरफ से ऐड किया हुआ है द नेचर फॉर ऑफ द रेगुलेटरी एनवायरनमेंट. ओके नेचर फॉर द रेगुलेटरी एनवायरनमेंट जो बाद में चेक कर रहा है उसका भी नेचर सेम होना चाहिए. Division A and B, we produce and sell pharmaceutical products, and the nature of the products could be deemed to be similar, although the production process of vaccines and allergy testing kits are likely to be different. Also, the type of customer for the products is very different. The type of customer is very different, being governments compared to pharmaceutical wholesalers. एक मिनट ये वाली बात कहाँ पे की गई थी. देखो डिवीजन बी जो प्रोड्यूस करता है इट इज सोल्ड टू फार्मेसी होलसेलर्स. ठीक है. डिवीजन ए के बारे में कहाँ बोला गया था गवर्नमेंट को सेल करता है ऐसा. हम्म, नहीं वो नहीं बोला है. नहीं एक्चुअली ये मुझे नहीं मिला. ठीक है. In addition, operating segments have often displayed similar long-term financial performance if they have similar economic characteristics. Divisions A and B report significantly different long-term average gross margins. Therefore, it would be appropriate to aggregate division A and B into one operating segment. Sorry, it would be inappropriate. मैं आधा पढ़ा and I was like, it is not right. It doesn't sound right. So that therefore it would be inappropriate to aggregate divisions A and B into one operating segment for the reporting purposes. Nice. आगे बढ़ते हैं reportable segments. An entity should report separately the information about an operating segment which meets any of the following quantitative thresholds. Its reported revenue, including both sales to external customers and inter-segment sales or transfers, is 10% or more of the combined revenue, internal and external, of all operating segments. The absolute amount of its reportable profit or loss is 10% or more of the greater in absolute amount of the combined reported profit of all operating segments which did not report a loss, the combined operating loss of all operating segments which reported a loss, and the assets that are 10% or more of the combined assets of all operating segments. अच्छा ये 75% के बारे में मतलब बोलना था. हाँ. If the external revenue reported by the operating segments constitute less than 75% of the entity's revenue, additional operating segments must be identified as the reportable segments. I thought कि हर एक चीज 60-20-20 करी थी तो मतलब बात करने की जरूरत नहीं थी, बट नहीं. तो सी भी कॉस्ट सेंटर था. The revenues of divisions A, B, and D exceed 10% quantitative thresholds of for total revenue. Because this first threshold is met, it is not necessary to apply the remaining threshold test. Division A, B, and D will be reported separately. Because 10% full हो गया तो इसलिए अभी 75% करने की कोई जरूरत नहीं थी, लेकिन फिर भी इन्होंने एक्सप्लेन करने के लिए किया हुआ है कि you have to do this. ठीक है. ओह नाइस.